Black people, how y'all feeling? You woke? Exhausted? Woke and exhausted? Mass riots and protests in the name of combating police brutality. Learning the names of all the fallen men and women who died because of these protests. So exhausting. The good news is that we don't have to remember them all. Not the men who were killed during the protest or those names of the black-owned businesses that we put out of business while we were busy trying to show the world how much Black lives matter. Being woke is the grandest badge of honor there is these days. It's supposed to mean that we're connected to our roots, right? That we peep the systemic racism that's designed to only keep the descendants of slaves oppressed, just not the Africans, Asians, and Jews who come here and exceed us economically. Blacker people than me come to this country and do better. But you're not supposed to let the world know you're Black. Being woke means that I give Jay-Z his 1 millionth view when he makes a video that sheds awareness on mass incarceration in this country and how it disproportionately affects Black people. Meanwhile, his wife can put on a sparkly unitard, put on a concert, and then endorse Hillary Clinton. And I'm supposed to misremember that the Clintons are part of the reason why the three-strike laws exist. Al Sharpton is a part of the reason why the three-strike laws exist. Yeah, democratic policies have done nothing for us, really. Being woke means that I peep symbolism, just not when it comes to socialism. My community happened to be one of the first communities that got to experience what trickle-down theory means and how it's executed in reality. You see, it sounds good on paper, but in reality, it's no bueno. We had to ration out those chitlins. Yes, we did. We got the intestines of hogs, and we trained our noses and our bodies to not, you know, when the smell of feces was too overwhelming. Socialism is this nation's only hope. Just ask my community's smartest thought leaders, like Cardi B. Cardi B can attest. She's one of America's self-made millionaires. She went from the strip club to the silver screen. Usually you can find her online complaining about why the government takes so much of her money, while she also endorses politicians who are more than likely to pass bills that take 70% of her earnings away. She's woke. We've got T.I. too. He's the guy who gave us Iggy Azalea. Iggy Azalea, you remember that artist who, let's face it, she was like one album away from wearing blackface. Do you smell that wokeness? I don't know what you corn muffins are smoking, but it's starting to seem like we're okay with being on our hamster wheel and going nowhere. Starting to seem like we're okay with being the Democrat Party's golden nugget to winning elections and doing nothing for us. We've lost our way, and it's such a shame because Dr. King didn't die for us to be here in 2020 reinstating segregated spaces. But that's okay, we've got thought leaders, right? Or do we? Or maybe not. We've got voices whose credibility is built on nothing else than, I don't know, having a blue check mark by their name on Twitter. Well, I don't have a blue check mark by my name. I don't even own a Twitter. I just, you know, what's the point? In a few years' time, Twitter will end up eventually canceling itself. But since you can really only be taken seriously in my community if your experience as a Black person is relegated to poverty, drugs, hood life, maybe I should take this time to introduce myself. I was born to a crack-addicted mother who did drugs while carrying me full term. The fight for my life didn't start at birth. It started at conception, fending off the drugs that were being pumped into my little body as I was trying to grow. That was a war I won in a sick woman's womb space. Yeah, I met my mother for the first time as I was walking to school. She had a wound on her chin that was infected, and I'll never forget the way it smelled. It was bad. It was a gunshot wound that she'd earned while she was rolling dice on the street corner. I don't know, that's what I've assumed. Her first words to me were, "Who are you?" They still haunt me to this day. But I won the war against letting the odds that she birthed me into defeat me. I won the war against letting the abandonment I felt growing up turn me into a statistic where the world would just feel sorry for me. Me, yet another statistic who was a product of my environment. I didn't bring this up to evoke sympathy. I didn't bring it up to be a manipulation tool. I brought it up to make the one single declaration that I'm proud to make. Thanks to my ancestors, thanks to those Quaker Christian abolitionists, thanks to those patriots who fought for my freedom. I can say these words and mean it with every bit of my heart. Dear Black people, I am not your Negro. I am not a part of your monolith, and I don't have to support every cause Democrats tell you to support, or else you ain't black. Democrats got you avocados trained like
right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, 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 left, right, right.
I won the biggest fight of my life in a toxic womb space. No, I'm not your Negro. I'm not your coon either. But it turns out I'd rather be called a coon than woke. Woke means that I am to dress my head in the tribal wear of those African tribes who sold my ancestors into slavery. If I have to stand around and believe that this mythology that was created is so real, that basically paints a picture that Africans stood by as innocent bystanders while the European infiltrated and raped their lands. Slavery was a business. And those African ships that are documented by the transatlantic slave trade that came in and out of the New World, it's given me all the validation that I need, that I should be proud to be an American. If you can forgive Africans enough to wear their garb, but you can't stand to look at a white man for what he symbolizes, you are disqualified for dictating where I place my vote. If woke means that I need to join the members of my community as they do the electric slide and tear down really historic monuments around the National Mall, if woke means that I have to watch this community make donations to Black Lives Matter and cluelessly stand aside and watch those millions of dollars reach the pockets of rich white men like Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden before they reach black communities like mine, no, I'd rather not be woke. Some of you are still confronting when your life will find peace, when we're going to get past all of this protest and rioting business. I'm here to tell you it's going to be a really long time. I'm here to tell you to get used to the images of knees on the necks of brown and black people. Police brutality is a problem in this country, but make no mistake, the sooner you defund the police, the sooner you'll have knees on your necks by those members of your communities who can't wait to be the predators that they are. Maybe until atrocities like that happen, you won't wake up and realize how lost your tribe really is. You probably feel sorry for me because it takes more than an endorsement from Oprah Winfrey or Beyonce Knowles to persuade me to vote for this or that person. Can I just say that it's I who feel sorry for you? You can't even finish mourning the loss of a man at the end of excessive force without a woke leader whispering in your ear,
Remember the work is far from over. Remember to love your fellow transgender.
Now, if the world wasn't already on your back and against you, you've got to be responsible for a biological man who wants to assume the appearance of a woman in nature, who feels like the world doesn't accept him. Does that make sense? It makes sense to those woke leaders you love so much. Democrats don't even care enough about you to keep your missions separate. They've grouped you together because everyone knows that slavery and the homosexuals' treatment in society are basically the same thing. I can't see myself paving the way for a community of people who believe that I'm not a woman, I'm just a menstruator. That means that even if I did decide to be a woke feminist, it would be short-lived. Women don't exist to some of these tribes that these woke groups out here are temporarily allied with. We're just menstruators. No, I'm not your Negro. I am not a part of your monolith. Black people know that hating the police comes along with the territory of watching them show up to a tragedy moments too late. And then we demand that they police our ghettos more, just so they won't ever show up to a crime scene late with their notepad. We make them promise to be there for us when we need them. And then you know what we do? We ask for more police cars in our neighborhoods because we need it. And then the second when it's convenient, we allow these statistics to paint a picture that we are patrolled more because of systemic targeting. No, I am not your Negro. I am not a part of your monolith. You don't own my voice or my vote because you haven't earned it with disingenuous BS like that. Besides, months ago you were looking to disarm law-abiding citizens because you felt like police were the only people who needed firearms. Now, you don't need the police. No, this crack baby is not your Negro. And I realize the things that I've shared will come at the cost of certain abuses from people who look like me. It doesn't deter me from spreading my truth. Malcolm X had much to say about why voting Democratic was for chumps. And those black lives which he would have died for, those black lives that he spent his entire life fighting for, they showed him how much gratitude they had by pumping his chest full of lead. And today, you'll hear nothing but arguments that suggest that the white man put guns in a black man's hand to kill Malcolm X, as if that absolves them of the crime they committed. Am I surprised by that? The Prince of Wokeness himself, Tupac Shakur, was killed by his own people. Could you be any more woke than Tupac? I'm not your Negro or your Democrat or your Black Lives Matter supporter. I won my first war at conception. I don't have time to be a part of the oppression Olympics. The perceived feeling that the Masonic systems that the white man developed for themselves have kept them ahead of me, and I've been kept down and oppressed, and now I just don't, I don't have anywhere to go, and I just need white people to just understand that they have privilege, and unless they understand that, then I can't do anything in this country, and I just can't get ahead. It's just... Dear woke friends, Masonic systems you credit to your suffering are Egyptian, made by brown people, practiced by brown people, adopted by white men who are the minority in the world. Fascinating. I would have thought that woke people knew that. If the white man adopted it for himself, when will you adopt it for your tribe? Instead of making excuses, how can you pride yourself on being the first people and not recognize systems that were invented from the sands your people were raised from? Is that woke? Or are you just being told which systems to hate? Everyone hates America, but no one wants to go back to their diaspora. God bless America.